Thank you very much. It's a great honor, and I know this is fast talk, so I'm going to talk very fast. And the reason I'm talking about leopard lessons, and I titled this talk, Walk on the Wild Side, because in 1972, Lou Reed wrote this song, and David Bowie actually produced it. And it was interesting because this was a very transformational song in America. It took us into a different musical era, this Walk on the Wild Side. And it's important because when you begin to look at leopard lessons, the leopard is a member of the animal kingdom, and often we can learn a lot from animal behaviors, the lower animal behaviors, since we're a part of that particular kingdom as well. The Genesis is called Panthera, and the Panthera includes lions, tigers, jaguars, and the leopard. The leopard is the smallest of the species. And so one of the things that is very important is, though the leopard is very successful on the wild side, it is very successful in the jungle that we now see, because we're in a wild side, and believe me, it's very wild. One of the reasons why it's successful is because of its coat. Its coat is comprised of a rosette, and that rosette is very unique to the leopard and makes it environmentally suitable. That unique pattern also blends in with the environment. It also is has opportunistic behavior. Why? Because what it does is it analyzes its surroundings and then it plans. It envisions what its tasks are before it, and then it plans. And guess what? It's a fast runner. It can top speeds of 40 miles an hour, and it is very decisive in its action. That's why it's suitable for being in the wild. So when we begin to talk about our first leopard lesson in walkability, in your book, and I used your book because I think it is an absolute great recipe, guide, instructions, and so I said, I'm not going to repeat all those things because you need to study that book. I wish Ohio's governor had charged, or Ohio's Municipal League had done what you guys done in this economic place book. It's a great manual, a great guide, a great beginning point. It gives you the strategies that you need to do. But when we look at walkability, walkability is a place for pedestrians. Ah, that's interesting. It's a place for pedestrians. It's a place designed or set aside for the use of people. That's interesting. So when we look at this and we begin to say communities have been designed to shuffle people between work and home, however, market analysis continues to show that today's young professionals, which Peter just talked to us about a lot, these millennials and the baby boomers, which are me, who gotten tired of the suburbs, and I'll tell you why, and empty nesters want to live in neighborhoods that we can just walk down to the coffee shop. Access to culture. We want social entertainment. I've got time on my hands. I want to do some things. I want to hear some jazz at night. And I'm going to tell you, that music last night, by the way, was just absolutely excellent. So we give a shout out to Isaac. One of the things I'm going to say is that animals, humans, animals, by design, by the Creator, are probably the only animals that walk on two. And that's interesting. And what we did from that is we extended ourselves through wagons, bicycles, cars to try to walk on fours so that we could get beyond the garden experience. Walkability. One of the young ladies that I met last night from the planning organization, she asked me, was I going to help you understand the walkability code and the assessment and all that? No, I'm not going to help you do that. It's in your book. There's all kinds of books. Go on the internet. But what I do want you to see is this. I want you to understand what walkability, where it came from. Walkability really is a byproduct of the fact that we engaged and based all of our design on what it was for. Not for the buildings. Buildings in and of themselves, nothing. It was for the people. Well, what are the benefits of walkability? There are great benefits of walkability. Health, financially, doesn't cost as much. You don't have to have as many roads. You don't have to have all of those things that cost anymore. That I have to tell this real quick story. When I was about 6, I'm going to say 6 or 7, maybe 8, but I say 6. my mother gave me a note. I lived in Cleveland, by the way, and she gave me a note and she said, Sadicka, Diane, she said, I want you to go take this down to the corner store and bring it back. Well, it was a note with the money in it, and the reason why she wrote a note, because it was a personal item. So I started, and I left my house, and I went up to the corner, which was about maybe 10 houses from the corner. And, of course, the houses on the street, because we had sidewalk, and we had cobblestone streets, which I love to hear the noise of the cobblestone street. The houses were duplexes, side-by-sides, or up and downs. They were single family. And there were fourplexes. Always on the corner, there was an apartment building that had 4 to 6 to 8 units in it. Then when I hit the corner, there was the gas station. Now, I told you I was about 6 or 7. So I hit the gas station. I knew to turn left because now I was up on Sinclair Avenue. So as soon as I turned left, I saw the 5 and Dime store, which was Woolworths. And I'd look in the window, and there because I love paper dolls. And so I'd look to see what that was the next paper doll. And then I'd walk on down the street a little bit further. And what did I see? There was my favorite store that had the Uptown Kitty Shop because they had children's, and there was a dress in there that I knew I wanted for Easter. And then as I walked a little bit farther, there was the Tom McAnn's, and then there was the ladies' dress shop, and then there was a barber shop, and then there was Whitmore's barbecue shop, which happened to be black-owned. And then I got to the corner, and there was the 105. I still remember the name of the drugstore. It was the Uptown Drugstore. And then I thought, should I go to the library? Because I loved the library, but it was only 2 more blocks down, but I wasn't going to the library. I was going to the store. So I gave the store person my money, and they gave me the product, and I could use a nickel. And the nickel was so that that was my reward for going. I bought a candy bar. Well, you could get a candy bar that big back then for a nickel. So then I went back home. Now, what's in that story? What's in that story is the urban design. It involves people and places. At 7 years old, I had street sense. Wasn't anybody going to come up and say, Sadicka, get in the car, because I already got my nickel for my goods. They wasn't going to fool me about a puppy. I knew how to get and maneuver through my community. I could walk to my community. I could, in fact, go to the library. I took my younger brothers and sisters, brothers, on to the library. That was one of my tasks. That was one of my jobs. My mother gave me responsibility. And so as such, because my community was designed to involve me, it was neighborhood, it was neighbor-centric, it was pedestrian. The architecture was there, so it was inviting. If something would happen, I could have run into the dime store. It was aesthetically pleasing. There were vistas. There were landmarks. I knew my way. I wouldn't get lost. I knew what street to turn back on. There were focal points. There was stewardship. There was commerce, there was mixed use. There were all of these things. So when you look at these numerous activities, as Peter said, because they were yesteryear, well, then tell me, how did all this change so quickly? This is the challenge that we have. You know how to make these things walkable. You know how to design. We've got all kinds of experts, far greater than me. But you got to know the deep smarts. Deep smarts are the things that baby boomers bring, because we bring wisdom to the millennials. Millennials have knowledge, but we have wisdom because we have experience, and some of that is not being passed on. I just retired in March, and I tried to transfer it to my deputy, who I did succession planning with for several years, so that they could understand how I made decisions. I can make a decision like that because I'm a true leader. And I've had experience that and knowledge coupled with that experience makes it me wise. So Henry Nothoff, in his book called Great Again, he's basically saying that we have to seize on entrepreneurial businesses because there's too much regulation against these businesses, taxes. We have a dysfunctional patent office. We have risk-adverse venture capital, and we have less of a high-tech manufacturing. Our Silicon Valley, quite frankly, is eroding, and because we're in global competition. And so subsequently, what we're banking on, we better be sure that we can bank on it, because we've already seen what we banked on in the past, that it in fact materialized. The middle class was derived, you got to know this, from the automobile industry. It happened after World War II when Eisenhower built those roads. And he built the roads really to put the defenses across and protect the country. But in the end, those developers started building those suburbs as a reward for the veterans who went to war. And so subsequently, we got these suburbs, and it took the people out. See, that's the problem. It took the people out of the city. So part of making prosperous places is that you got to get the people in the city. So when we look at the real issue, the real challenge before us today, and that's what I'm trying to say is why things have changed, because we, in fact, changed about this American experiment. And so when you look at it, there are economic deltas, and they're becoming more and more. People are less affluent today. The middle class is quickly eroding, and in America, this is unheard of because we've experienced the middle class, and it was part of what we were buying into. Now, the millennials have figured some of this out, and they're saying, we don't like all the entrapments. And so the impact has left the urban design in terms of the pedestrian orientation. We have centers that are vacuous. We have economically challenged situations. We have schools with poor people. So what things will have to change is, one is leadership. Leadership is, if I then, you or your Lord and teacher have washed your feet, you likewise should wash one another's feet. For I have given an example. A servant is not greater than his master, or the one who sent him, if you know him. These are the things that you must do. We need political decisions. Every place won't be prosperous. We're going to have to combine and consolidate services. We're going to have to return to civility. The Tea Party and the left and the right, they're too far apart. We've got to be statesmen like our original founding fathers. And so when we look at these 8 assets that you have in your book, I just want to tell you, lastly, that this is the kind of a place that you can, in fact, look forward. This is what I'm going to be talking about in my workshop this afternoon, because our community is a people place with all the people. It's walkable, and it's designed for the 21st century. Thank you so much.